Hello, I'm Harvey, host of Franchising Brand Stories.
Hello, I'm Sophie Atkinson, Managing Director of Autosmart International.
And I'm Rob Sidwells, Sales Director for UK and Ireland for Autosmart.
Fantastic, and welcome to Franchising Brand Stories, Season 4, brought to you by FranRec, specialist staff and executive recruiters for the UK franchise industry. And this is the show, and I'm going to do it where we get under the hat of some of the top brands in the UK and in the world. And this show is live. Well, it's live if it's about 5:15 on the 5th of December. And if you're a franchisee, this show is for you. If you're a potential investor, this show is for you. And this is about trying to find out what's beyond the brochure, what's behind the brands. And we do that by talking to the lovely people that are in these brands. And it's a fantastic opportunity for you to really understand and be aligned with a brand and make that right choice. So if you've got a question and if you are here live, please pop one up and we might have a go at answering it live. If you're watching this in the future, then put a comment up because we go back and we have a look at this so you can still get that answered as well. So the brand story we're going to hear today is Autosmart with the wonderful Sophie Atkinson and Rob Sidwells. Sophie and Rob, welcome to Franchising Brand Stories.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for inviting us.
You're most welcome. Well, we're going to get into this. It's a show of 3 chapters. So we're going to start off where you're at now, and then we're going to take you back in time, and then we're going to whiz forward into the future. So we're going to start with a good one, with a nice obvious one. And the question is, what is Autosmart? For people who don't completely understand the brand, and a lot of people will, let us know a little bit of the basic stuff as to what the business is.
Yeah, we're a company our franchisees' customers are businesses who need to use cleaning products for their vehicles for their brand image. So a typical day for franchisee would be zooming around his exclusive territory. And if, for example, he was in Nottingham, he'd be stopping at a car dealer and seeing what they needed for valeting their products. He'd be going to a skip hire company, seeing what they needed for their cleaning. He'd be doing, the range of sectors is vast.
Yeah, absolutely anyone. So pretty much any business could be a customer of one of our franchisees. So we make and manufacture products that could go into pretty much any industry in the UK and Ireland.
And in terms of my role in what is Autosmart, I handle head office. We have an inventing department, so we invent all the products. We have a team of chemists. We manufacture everything and we only make for ourselves. And then Rob's team recruit and train franchisees, pick people who will love what they do every day and go on to earn a very good living and enjoy what they do for them and their families. So that's kind of how we fit together in terms of our roles. Yeah. So if you're in the trade, if you're down the pub and you meet someone and they say Autosmart, if they're in the trade, they go, oh, I know you, your products are really good. They go further and they save me some money. If you're not in the trade, often people have never heard of us. And I hadn't heard of us before we came.
No, I hadn't. But I think once you spot the swirly S, you see it everywhere, hanging from wing mirrors and all sorts across all sorts of places in the UK.
And we're pretty big. So 1 in 3 trucks are cleaned using our products. And when you go into valeting bay, if you're picking up your new car and you sneak around the back, you open the valeting cupboard, you'll see there's typically always Autosmart stuff in the cupboard. So we touch 1 in 2 cars that are bought and sold in the UK.
Wow, fantastic.
Well, let's touch.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, look, fantastic introduction. Thank you both for that. Let's recognise that we've got a few people live with us today. Let's say hello to Tim Morris, a great advocate for our wonderful franchising industry. Great to have you here, and he's looking forward to hearing the Autosmart story, as are we. And we have the ever-wise Simon Wise with us. So it's always good to have Simon with us. Looking forward to hearing all of your thoughts. Please, if you're here and you've got a question, pop it up. And as I say, we may well get to that. And another question that I'd like to ask, because this is all about framing this from the perspective of a potential franchisee, a potential investor. And it's really good to understand where you're at as a business right now, not necessarily where it all began, because we're going to get to that, chapter 2, but where are you at now, sort of in terms of number of franchisees, and whereabouts can you be found in the UK and in the world?
Okay, so right now we have just over 300 mobile showrooms are how we identify a unit. So our franchisee has a mobile supermarket full of products, and the customer walks aboard and picks what he wants in whatever amount he wants. So we define it as showrooms. Some franchisees have more than one showroom. Many have one showroom. So we have 300 showrooms in the world. We're in 8 countries primarily. UK would be the biggest, but France, Sweden, and Australia are very close behind. And Rob handles the UK. So in the UK, we have...
So we've got 120 franchisees, and across the 120, they've got 170 what we call mobile showrooms. So obviously some have multiple showrooms in their territories, and we see over the next few years the showrooms growing from 170 to 200 in the UK and Ireland.
Fantastic, absolutely amazing stuff. And it's good to understand, you know, sort of where you're at right now. But look, I think it's going to be time very soon to take us back in time. Before we do that, though, let's just say hello. We've also got Natalia with us, and it's great to have you here, Natalia. And she's put, I know Autosmart pretty well and use the products myself. Well, that's great to hear. And great to have you here as well. So if you have just joined us today, this is Franchising Brand Stories, brought to you by Franrec, the specialist staff and executive recruiter for the UK franchise industry. And today we are hearing the story of Autosmart, and it's been a fascinating introduction. Scan the QR code that is on the left-hand side of the screen, and you can catch the replay if you've joined it midway through, or if you happen to catch a snippet in the future. So we are, as we said, going to take you back in time now for chapter 2. So where did it all begin for you at Fast Signs?
Autosmart, I think.
Oh my goodness.
It started in 1979. We weren't old enough to be in it then. And the business today is 45 years old, and it started in the UK. And always been a franchise. At the beginning, the company bought in products, and it was the showroom concept and the service and the franchisee's energy that took the business through its first few years. And then quickly we became manufacturers and inventors ourselves. So that's the company's history. I think.
And congratulations on your 45th year, by the way. Amazing stuff. It's such an incredible achievement.
Yeah, and many of us have been here a long time, and our franchisee in Carlisle was one of the first. He predates me. John joined in 1980.
Wow.
So we're a business of relationship building and continuity, both with our customers and with our franchisees. I joined the business when 35 years ago, and headed a management buyout when the man who started the business, the entrepreneur behind it all, retired and went to live in Australia. And yeah, I'd say we are very proud of our history. But if John will say that in the beginning it was more difficult because he was building brand and people had no idea who we were. I mean, in the UK now, if you rock up to a customer who's not yours yet and you say, have you heard of Autosmart? They will normally go.
Most people know who we are. Yeah, recognise the brand or will have seen us somewhere or used us in the past. So yeah, we're well recognised, which is a big advantage.
Yeah, whereas we're just starting in New Zealand now. Our franchisee there has been on patch for 8 weeks. And nobody knows who Autosmart is. Yeah. So he's got a completely different experience. Yeah. However, he's come from Australia. He had a territory in Darwin. He knows what he's doing. So in the UK, we've been around a long time. Our brand's very well known. In other countries, we're not. But the combination of franchisee and showroom and really good products does the rest.
With the swirly yes. The expression, the swirly yes. Absolutely, that's fantastic and fabulous to hear that history, that story behind the brand, because it's really important to understand the beginnings. And I think obviously you can empathize when people are starting things in a new region. I mean, they've got a huge advantage. Obviously, they've got the franchising model and the proven model and a brand. But you can empathize at least with that journey of beginning again in a new territory. And I think that's really important for a, if you're a potential master franchisee listening to this in a region you're not currently in, that's always really good to hear. So no, that's fantastic to hear. Thank you so much for letting us know that wonderful history. We've got another couple of people that have joined us live. Good to have Kelly here from the USA, and we've got James Muttimer here as well.
James is a franchisee of ours, and hi, James.
Yeah, hi, James.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, it's absolutely wonderful to have you with us to share this journey and this story, and you're a big part of it. So fantastic to have you here. Let's have a little look at another question. I think, we're all about franchising here. I mean, you've got a fantastic company there, but why do you think franchising has been the growth model that's been so successful for Autosmart?
I think the beauty of franchising is when someone has decided that that they like the sector and they like the automotive sector and our sort of customer base, the sheer energy that someone like James will put into their business because they've got skin in the game, and the continuity. So compared to competitors who employ heaps of salesmen, the customer has someone who really, really, really knows the product range, has been with us a long time. James, as an example, has been in the business with his father and bought it from his father quite recently. So the customer sees huge continuity compared to salesmen who chop and change. He sees someone who's building a long-term relationship with other business owners in their territory. And that means that they're going to give those customers really good value over time. So I think what franchising does for us is it anchors the customer down to someone who's very knowledgeable and who really cares and who will always go the extra mile on service. So it is wonderful compared to competitors who are running salesmen out into the field. What would you like to add?
I think absolutely the resilience and the resourcefulness of the franchisees to keep going, to push through boundaries and go on to the successes that we see, you just wouldn't see in any other way other than it being their business. And I think such a key part of I think the franchise that we offer is the independence that the franchisees take from the business. So I think they absolutely are driving their businesses forward, and it's that skin in the game and the resilience that just keeps them pushing forward.
Yeah, it unleashes an energy and a motivation that's absolutely incredible. So most people who join us have joined us from employment, and what they report, and I'm sure you've had this as you've spoken to other all franchisees, because it's yours, it just feels completely different, and you behave with immense, everything Rob's just said, energy, resilience, motivation, customer service. It's the most wonderful model, and we were one of the first into the UK, and we haven't deviated. We franchise in all the other countries as well.
That's fantastic. And it's great to hear your affection for the nature of franchising, because that partnership between franchisor and franchisee is so important. And, if you're a potential franchisee listening to this, to understand how important that relationship is to the two of you is really key to your decision-making process. So I think it's wonderful to hear that. Let's have a look. We've got a few questions coming in. Perhaps, Rob, you could take this one from Tim. Tim's put, I'm guessing your products are used anywhere where vehicles need cleaning, including public car wash centres. Is that correct?
I think absolutely, and I wouldn't restrict it to just vehicles. So yes, it's a core part of what we do, anything with wheels, but it's also people, it's also premises, and that's pretty much why the products could be. There's a need for our products in pretty much any business in the UK.
Excellent. No, that's fantastic. We've got another good question coming up here from Simon, and Sophie, perhaps you could take this one. And Simon's put, what are the key considerations for you as a franchisor when you're entering a new global market? I think it's a great question. for everyone within the network?
Yeah, so the first thing is the franchisee has to be profitable. So you have to do some analysis to see who the competition are and what their pricing is, and then make sure. So in New Zealand, for example, we're manufacturing in Australia and shipping across. We wouldn't be competitive selling from here. So it all has to come back to, will the franchisee, when they're running their business, have a profitable one for the effort they've put in? So that's to do with product and product pricing. And then the next thing, of course, is, does the customer want the product? So for Australia, our product formulations are very different in part. Some are the same.
Yeah.
But for example, they have a lot of red dirt over in Perth, and we have to formulate products that are particularly good on getting the red dirt off, which we don't see in the UK. So some markets need product ranges that are quite different. Australia's one. Sweden needs products that are much colder. So you've got to have an understanding that just because you have a product range for the UK, it's not going to be the same in an international market. So everything there is coming back from, will customers want to buy your stuff at the price the franchisee is selling it at? So that's number one. And then number two is infrastructure. Is there a banking infrastructure that's favourable to franchising? So France is very good. Australia's actually has been quite difficult. Franchisees have had just local relationships at local banks. That's been harder. The UK is wonderful because the UK has a very, very strong franchising banking support structure. Holland is good like that. So it's just checked that the franchisees can raise money and that banks are sympathetic to the benefits of franchising. Germany was interesting actually because German people, James isn't typical because he'd already had lots of experience with his father who'd never sold anything before, might like cars. And in Germany, the banks didn't like that. They wanted people who'd already sold in our sector. And we prefer to take people who haven't got experience in our sector and train them in our system from bottom up. So Germany, we found the banks not as great. And that was a long time ago. That was 1993 or 4 when I was going around the banks in Germany. So it's, will your product sell? Which means, will your franchisees make money? Can your franchisees raise money? And then obviously head office has the support that we offer, we have to replicate in the markets we're in. So in France, we have Rob 1 and Rob 2 and Rob 3. So you have to have a local team who will look after the franchisees. You can't expect that franchisees in France would love things coming across in English. It's not very, it's not popular.
No.
Understand that market. I think it was really interesting what you said there, particularly as you've got a product that does have to be different in a different marketplace because of climatic things. Is that the right expression? But it's really interesting, and especially at the very beginning of this conversation when you said you've got a sort of an inventions laboratory where you work on, I've got a great picture in my mind of test tubes boiling away and people with white coats and it all going on there.
Right.
I've got a picture of Doc Brown in there now from Back to the Future.
That's also correct.
Yes.
Excellent stuff. But on a serious note, it's really, really important that when you go to a new territory, a new country, not only to understand the culture of how things operate there, but in your case, the product as well, it has to be different. Really, really interesting.
Yeah, I think if I interjected, the franchisees are the same. So the culture of someone who is entrepreneurial minded, wants to put their money in, wants to be their own boss and make a jolly good go of it, that is identical in any country. You're right, the culture is different. So when it comes to employing staff, the terms and conditions are very different. There's different laws to watch out for, but I'd say the franchisees are the same. So we, I don't know if James was at the conference, but we have combined conferences with France, and particularly as time goes on, conversations get more fluid. The franchisees are the same animal in different countries. So culturally, there isn't a difference there. That's quite interesting.
That's really interesting. That's really interesting to see that there's some consistency there across such a key element of when you're growing. Well, look, thanks so much for touching on that international section of the business. I will quickly recognize that we've got somebody else here with us live. We've got Robert Wheatley with us here live, and he's good afternoon. Good to have you here with us, Robert. And we also have Peter Thompson with us. Fantastic to have you here as well. Do you know these franchisees? Do you know these people as well?
Rob runs our valeting training. So one of the support things that the UK franchisees have is if they win a new car dealership, and the car dealership's not familiar, they want to only use our products, we go in and teach the valeters how to use the right amount in the right safe way, and Rob goes out in the field and introduces the range when that happens.
Fantastic. Well, it's lovely to have you here, Rob, and it's so good to have other people within the organisation here with us live, because everyone's such a valuable part of the organisation, and it's fantastic to have you here and to have your input as well. I think it would be quite a good time to have a little look at. You've spoken a little bit about the type of people, and we've touched on there about the fact that there's some consistency there. But who does typically choose your franchise, and what sort of skills or experience do they need?
I'd say in terms of skills and experience, it's more very sort of little at the beginning. So it's more character and match the marketplace that we look for. And then we do lots and lots of shoulder to shoulder coaching to show them the Autosmart model. But typically they're people that are practical, hands-on, like being out and about, like meeting 20 customers a day, enjoy, the banter and the sort of relationships that you build up, seeing the same customers month in, month out.
We have franchisees who join us who are young. So we have some 27, 28-year-olds. We have some who join us at in their sort of mid-50s. Yeah. So experience, you can see from that, doesn't matter. It's having some gumption and the ability to learn something new.
Yeah. And the will to succeed, the will to win.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned earlier on a couple of words which I wrote down, which I thought were really relevant. One of them was energy and the other was motivation. Yeah. And I think they're two strong characteristics. If you're a potential franchisee looking at this and you're thinking, I really want to get into this, but am I right? At least when you start to look at your character and you start to look at, are you energetic? Do you have that motivation, that character? Do you want to, Rob, you mentioned there about the sort of the banter that you have with existing customers. And it's really important, those sorts of relationships and building on those relationships is really key, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that problem solving nature, the service that our franchisees give to their customers is unrivaled, and they very much rely on them. They see them at least every 4 weeks, and they become friends. Many of our franchisees will have been to their customers' weddings and things like that. They build up such a strong local network in the community because they are like-minded business owners, really, aren't they? And they are just there, dependable and helping each other out.
Oh, fantastic. I suppose the next thing, if you're a prospective franchisee and you're looking at this as your possible next step, it's always interesting to understand what that journey is going to look like. We're not talking what you do day to day. What we're talking about now is you make a phone call, you send an email, and what happens between that point and starting to run your franchise business.
So I'd say the very first thing that we do is we call it a McQuaig, so like a personality profiling sort of short exercise, and that's to make sure that the business would be right for anybody looking to invest, because the last thing we'd want is somebody to come along and it not necessarily match their skills. So we ask people to fill that in to see where they're a match for the business and the model. And then from there on, it's very much a two-way discovery session. Come in, ask as many questions as you like about the business. And then we ask them to go out and spend some time with franchisees. So go out on the road, have some field days, see what it's really like day to day. And then the final stage is come and have a go yourself. So we get them to go out and have a day that we call Try Before You Buy. And it's out on the showroom, sort of experiencing what a day would be like in the world as a franchisee. And that gives them a great experience, I think, to see what it's really like before they choose if it's the right investment for them.
So that's outside in a mobile showroom that we own. I saw someone going out 2 days ago, and they're with the person who will be their coach. So we just show them what it's like when you're building the business. We don't show them what it's like to go and collect the repeats from the customer base they'll be buying. We show them the bit that's tougher when you're new.
Yeah.
So they have 8 hours of knocking on
Yeah.
people they've never met in an area they're actually not going to be selling in, just seeing what the sales system is and how the mobile supermarket works for them. So we want them to really thoroughly know what it will be like, because there's nothing worse than falling in love with you've met franchisees who do really well, you see what they've done with that. Oh, that's for me. And it's only for you if you like the life itself. Yeah. So we really, really, really take our time.
It's really important to take your time. It's really important as a franchisee to take your time in that process as well, and get different perspectives on it, you know, and really make sure that it's right for you. It's interesting, you know, you spoke there a little bit about the sales part of it, you know, that's quite key to things early on. Would you say that's right? And so therefore, you know, people need to be good at, because cold calling and selling, it's not for everybody, is it? And it can be tricky. It can be tricky.
It can, but I'd say what gives us a huge advantage is our mobile showroom. So it's like nothing else. When you turn up and you ask the customer to come and have a look, the products are there and then, and they're walking into the shop and can buy it, you know, faster than Amazon with the products. So whilst it is can be a little bit daunting, I think we have a really robust sales system that once you've done it lots and lots of times, you get really good at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are other franchises who generate leads and you go and convert those leads, and the mix between the amount of money the franchisee makes and the head office makes is different. Ours is the franchisee adds the value, it's their customer base, it's not ours. They grow their customer base, we support. Yeah. We will grow the national side that's negotiated, say in London. That's Rob. Rob has a team doing that separately to the coaching team. Yeah. So, but you're right. Franchisees who like us like the idea of going and creating a customer where one wasn't there before by inviting them on the back of the show.
Fantastic. We've got a couple of good questions that have come in, so I want to put these up. So we've got a question here from Tim, because you mentioned there having franchisees as young as 27 or 28 years old, and that's fantastic, because I'm a huge advocate of bringing younger people into our industry and making that an option for younger people when they're leaving, maybe when they're even at school, but certainly at university, it needs to be an option. Franchising. People think you can have a job or start a business, and there's a wonderful thing that a lot of people don't know about. So we're doing our best to inform people about that. But look, Tim's put, it's great to see that you have younger franchisees. How do you support franchisees raising finance through the banks, especially for those younger people? I think that's a big challenge for young people, isn't it? You know, the capital.
So we offer funding for, it didn't need to be somebody young. So we have an easy start scheme where we will offer finance to help the franchisee. Banks know that we do that, and the banks will do a package where a new franchisee will always have to put in some capital, because that's an important part of motivation and commitment. However, banks will lend, and we will do a layer of lending on top of that. And we're very pleased to do that. We've been doing that for about 20 years, and it's super successful. Sometimes it's an older person though, but this question is particularly for young. So we help with the money there. And I'd actually asked Rob this question in the UK only yesterday. So do you know what to say? Where we've been really surprised is youngsters who've been saving up for deposit on their house will actually decide, I'm going to wait for my house and go with the business first, which I think is astonishing.
Yeah,
and brilliant.
Yeah, we've had quite a few of our younger franchisees join recently. That's exactly what they've done. So they've got the house deposit ready, but have spotted the opportunity and thought, actually, I'll delay that, invest in the franchise, and gone on then to some of them built their own houses in the future. They've been running their business. It's fantastic.
Wow. I'm going to stop you there, because I think that's such a powerful thing you've said there. And it's something that I hadn't even really thought of. And a lot of youngsters are struggling and trying to save for that house. And, you know, every time they get to a certain point, house prices have gone up even further, et cetera, et cetera. And they're not getting any real return on that while they're saving on it. But what a fabulous and fantastic suggestion and idea, you know, for someone who is just trying to head towards that, to hopefully accelerate that and have a load of fun in the meantime. And I'm sure a very clean car.
Yeah.
No, it's fantastic. I love that. I love the answer to that. And I think that that's, I learn things when I have these conversations. And I think that that is something that any franchisor listening today and any franchisor that listens to this in the future, and certainly prospective franchisees, take that and spread the word, because what a great idea. Love it. Let's have a quick look at a comment here from Simon. And while Simon's on the screen, if you have just joined us, this is Franchising Brand Stories. And today we are talking with Autosmart. And Franchising Brand Stories is brought to you by FranRec, the specialist staff and executive recruiter for the UK franchise industry. So let's have a look at this question from Simon. Simon's put, do I need a 7.5-ton entitlement on my driving license to operate as a franchisee? Well, that's an interesting question.
It's very apt question.
Yes. So actually, many of our franchisees have already moved to much larger vehicles. So they're often in 12 or 14-ton vehicles. And all of our new starters will take their HGV before they start, so they're ready to get straight into a bigger truck. So where we've seen our competitors sort of divest and go into smaller vehicles, our franchisees have gone into bigger ones. So the minimum size showroom now is actually 10-ton and bigger. So it means taking a Class 2 license, the EC license.
And the reason why the vehicles in the UK are so large is because half our sales are linked to barrels of detergent that clean cars and trucks. Yeah. And we deliver with a tanking system that means the customer isn't repeatedly buying plastic packaging. And some of the vehicles have, when you're a new starter, you might have 4 tanks on there, but later it's up to 8 tanks because it's a high volume, huge competitive advantage sector of ours. So that's why the UK is like that.
That's great. That's really good to know that you're making those decisions, and to stop using as much plastic. Because I know certainly when I go and get my car cleaned every now and again, you get all those plastic barrels, don't you? And the idea of those being topped up is a great thing. I think it's time now to move on to try and explain to people listening what a day looks like, what a showroom looks like, what a truck looks like. Because when you're trying to make a decision, I think one of the important things is to picture what you're going to be doing. I think it's really key, in fact, to picture it. So let's try and explain to anyone listening now or listening in the future, what does that day look like? You get up in the morning, and what goes on?
But what I'd say is no 2 days are the same, and that's what keeps it super fun and exciting. But generally, you head to your warehouse where your truck will be parked and your stock. Make sure your stock's ready for the day. Typically, the day will be seeing existing customers, so you'd be looking and checking what your route is that you've decided on yourself, and visiting 20 customers of all different types of industries. So they could be haulage yards, they could be farms, they could be car dealerships, and from there, making sure that they've got the products they need, topping their order up, and trying to sell them something new for the day. You head back to your warehouse and get the truck washed down, get restocked, ready for the next day.
I imagine your trucks are pretty clean as well, aren't they?
Yes, yeah, they look incredible, some of the franchisees' trucks.
Absolutely. So you've got yourself a truck and you've got yourself a warehouse. So you've got a sort of a bricks and mortar element and a mobile part of it. Is that part of the setup for your franchisees?
Most of the cost is in the mobile supermarket, the mobile showroom. The warehouse typically isn't visited by a customer. That's not always the case. Some franchisees tackle that a bit differently, so it needn't be expensive. So the value is in the walkable supermarkets, and the displays in there are lovely. So customers get on board and have a good look at everything and choose what they want to have a demonstration of. So the capital is really in the vehicle. The vehicle's bought on HP.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's interesting to know, because we touched a little bit, this is all about the story, but it's interesting to know about how, some of those financial elements are supported as well. So that's fantastic. We touched a little bit on who chooses your franchise typically. And again, obviously it can be all sorts of different people. But I guess a question is, who do you want to try and attract now into the business as a new franchisee? Is there particular people that you're looking for that make really good franchisees, or is it just you've got this system and it can be applied to anyone?
Do you want me to take it?
Yeah, go on.
So for a while I headed the recruitment team, and I've trained in France and in other countries. The franchisee has to like our sector. So you have to like speaking with business owners of hauliers, car dealerships. So you have to like and really, usually, not always, but typically, if you look for things that are in common, it's a passion for the market. Other than that, occasionally there'll be people who like driving. They like the HGV element. In France, a few have joined us who have national service background. But really, the rest is, do they like the sector? Often there's someone who's used our products.
Yeah.
They are a petrol head. They have a feeling for what they sell. Other than that, it's the gumption, the energy, the motivation, wanting to be a business owner. So we look for the right attitude, and we run an interview where we interview against open questions, and we're checking that someone's understood what the business is, but also what they're like, because we glue into long-term relationship. The franchise contract, as it needs to, protects franchisees' masses. So we're then locked in a relationship that runs for 25, 30 years. So we do our best to explain who we are as a personality, and we will interview and find out who they are as a personality.
Mm-hmm.
So other than that, that's what I'd say everyone's got in common. So we share a cultural outlook, and which is hard work, motivation, recognizing it's a partnership. Franchises have rules, so you've got a wonderful umbrella of support and help, but please stick within those rules, often to protect other franchisees around you. But that's it. It's so a love of the sector, huge energy, motivation, and occasionally like driving.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I mean, you mentioned some really key elements, and you've used the word motivation and energy many, many times. So it's clear that those are things that you need, or that are really key to your success in the business. You also mentioned the word of feeling for as well, and I think that I like that as an expression. It gives a sort of a lighter nuance than passion and enthusiasm. Having a feeling for something, a gut feel, is a more delicate thing, and I think it's really interesting, especially in this beginning part where you're going to have to do the job of a salesperson, and you that's where you need that passion and enthusiasm and motivation. What sort of support do you give during that sales part?
So I was just going to add, before we do the sales part, our marketplace is very informal. It is funny. It is humorous. So the odd person who's come across from a very formal, structured background maybe doesn't like. So when I said culture, we have a bit of a laugh. Don't we?
Yeah.
Rob said no 2 days the same. The customer base is our customers are informal. They want a good job. They know value for money.
They want to look forward to you turning up. So you see them every 4 weeks. You want to light their eyes up when you come. They look forward to the stories, to the banter, to the being looked after. But then the professionalism of knowing they're getting a great deal. Yeah,
it's the combo. So that's what I meant a bit by feeling. What was your question about selling?
Just the support. If you are, if you're a car enthusiast, if you've used products before, if you enjoy the driving element of it, if you're passionate about all of those things, but you're a little bit more nervous about walking through the door and to someone you don't know and saying, look, and doing that process of selling, how does that support Because I would imagine there's a lot of potential franchisees listening that completely get the product, love the products, completely get all of the support. But I imagine that the sales element of it might be something that they could have a resistance in their mind, or they might think that's a bit of a challenge. And, what process do you take people through to help and guide them on what can be a bit of a tricky sort of process?
Can I take the very first part? In the UK, we're already known, and a franchisee joining will be buying an existing customer base. Okay. So when the first thing is to settle down and know your customers, then the next thing is to ask that our customers know each other. If it's car rental, they'll often be renting from each other if they have a shortage. So the first thing is you go and ask your existing customer for another 3 or 4 people he knows. So you're wandering in going, actually, Frank has recommended me to you, Steve. He's a customer of mine. How about hopping aboard? Where there are existing customers, which the UK is entirely existing customers, we go by referral in that way. Yeah. But then when you're nervous, Rob's team are with you at the start, and continue through the whole life with a franchise according to when they need help. So what do you do, Rob?
So I'd say lots and lots of shoulder-to-shoulder supports, and again, not just in the sales side, but in terms of running a business. So we are, lots of the businesses where people are coming in are established businesses. They have a strong level of sales already. So it's looking after the customers that you start with, and then looking to expand into new customers. But everyone has a regional business manager. They are with them shoulder to shoulder, field days, making sure that they're helping them learn the next steps of what's going to take the business forward. Also, lots of support at head office. So there's customer services team. We have a lab for any particular product questions, or where we can send in samples to get new products developed in the future. But the support of fellow franchisees as well. I think what's incredibly strong within our network is there are 120 established franchisees, and they all look out for each other. So we give lots and lots of support from head office, but the support that's offered within the network is incredible. They all look out for each other and make sure, especially direct neighbours, that everyone's in there to succeed. Because it helps everyone's business move forward.
Absolutely.
I think also when shoulder to shoulder means your trainer is with you on the first day you're out looking for extra business. He'll probably have hopped out with you the day before to show you how to collect referrals. And usually in our training, it's please don't say too much. Introduce yourself and get them on the mobile supermarket. Find out what they're using or what they've had a struggle with lately. Bang straight into product demonstration, because our products are extremely good. Yeah. So we train through learn a few key products extremely well to start with, the absolute best sellers, and just get familiar with those for 12 weeks and then knock on to something else. So we have 7 steps of the sale. We teach the shoulder to shoulder teacher. Step 1 is find the man. Step 2 is get him on the van. Step 3 is ask an open question. It is a format. We train the format. Following the format works. Yeah.
Fantastic. I mean, that's really good to know. And it sounds like that's a relatively painless journey for someone to get involved in that process, and sounds quite good fun, actually. So really good. I think this is a great question here, and I brought it up from Simon, because, again, if you are somebody that's interested and you are based in a certain part of the UK, is there particular areas of the UK that you are looking actively for people at the moment? Are there new territories, or is it mostly resales? 2 questions.
We don't have any new territories, so they'll all be resales, and it's have a look at our website. So the website will list what's available, and the second someone registers their interest, we'd say give us a ring. We find that business owners are the most successful if they're under a 40-minute drive from their territory. If you layer your day with driving at the beginning and end, it's too tiring. Mm-hmm. So I guess the drama with us is there is a chance that we don't have a territory where you live. However, there's a chance that we do.
So check the website is a good idea. And I love that advice as well. It's so important to get that right work-life balance. And it's lovely to hear that you are, you're obviously interested and care about getting that right work-life balance for your franchisees. Because like you say, if you're driving all day and then you've got a 2-hour drive at the end of that day, it's not going to work out
hard,
very well, is it? So I'd like to, before we move on to sort of the final chapter in the last sort of 5 minutes or so, you're a business that has been about for many years, and you've got lots of wonderful franchisees. I imagine during that time you met some real characters, and as franchising always does, you must have experienced some real life-changing stories. I imagine there are many, but are there any that sort of particularly stick out in your mind of a franchisee that's come on board and and something's happened to really change their life for the better?
I think that's a really tough question because every story is individual and really special. Singling out one person's really hard. Usually, when we're at a conference and everyone's discussing their life story, I took a punt, I put some money in, I thought I'd do well, and I'm absolutely thrilled how well it's gone. And for each person, whatever they wanted to achieve, they have achieved. So our last conference, we asked people to have a frame of their dreams and say how far they got to doing it. And the dreams, usually family related, might be education for their kids. It could be whatever their dreams are. I think, though, for me, one sticks out, which someone came to see me quite a long time ago now, and he'd had the misfortune. He had a good management job in a supermarket chain and had been made redundant as they took out a layer of management. And he had 14 months of job rejections. Whether they felt he was a bit too old, I don't know. And because he's absolutely fantastic. And he came to see us, and he and his wife hadn't really thought of investing in a franchise, and they were ever so scared. But we had a few franchisees around that day, and they kind of said, well, we easily started them because by then this franchisee hardly had any money left because he'd been living on his redundancy for so long. And when he started, he struggled because he'd been used to marketing because he was retail. And he kept coming back and going, well, I want to do all this marketing. I said, no. Go to your existing, ask for the next one, get your call rate up. And the second he understood call rate, he absolutely flew. And he's retiring now and selling the business on in part to family. But it was lovely just seeing how he managed, feeling he was on a heap of nobody wanted him, to have a huge success. That's not that typical a story. No. But I just think the energy he did use to pick himself up after 40 months of rejection and get on and learn a brand new skill. As someone who's a little bit older myself, I think that was absolutely wonderful. What would you think?
I think that there are many, and I mean, life changing can mean different things. For some people, it's being able to be at home every night with their family and spend more time. But there's one that sticks out where somebody joined us quite young and borrowed the money for the franchise from their parents and had an agreement of when they would pay them back, and actually paid them back in a really short amount of time. Put it in a Christmas card and handed it over. And it's gone on to become incredibly successful, but their own property, and runs a multi-business now. So did quite well.
I love both of those stories. I mean, what a fantastic story there, particularly as we touched on younger people getting into franchising and, perhaps using what they're trying to save towards a house and put it into that investment. And what a wonderful story to hear about how that paid off and how that was successful. And also I love the other story that you shared there as well, when you're looking for a new job, and that can be such a tough time, that level of rejection, and to try and keep that energy and that motivation and that enthusiasm up. But to again hear that you switch somebody's life around by getting them involved was fantastic. So I love it. Thank you both very much for sharing those stories.
They turn their lives around. We have a format, they turn their lives around. So we help with the oil in the wheels, but they turn their lives around.
Fantastic. I love it. Thank you. No, that's fantastic. We are going to now just get to the last part of today's episode. And this is where you give us the Franchising Brand Stories exclusive. Okay, so what we're going to ask you now is what's coming up in the future. What exciting things are going to be happening with the brand in the coming months and weeks?
Okay, well, I think we're always exciting. We have an active new product development program. Rob runs meetings 3 times a year with franchisees. We've just had one. In each, we aim to launch a new product. So that actually is an exciting routine, and that will continue throughout.
Yeah.
We have Christmas dinners to look forward to.
Yeah.
Head office, but really it's a feature, not a benefit. We're investing in a brand new factory that's £35 million investment, which means that we have the capacity to support franchisees for our next 30 years. The site we're on here is an older site. It's got enough capacity, but we're moving to a modern site that is more of an automatic process and has a lower environmental footprint in terms of the way we make things. So what that means for franchisees is more care for the environment, and knowing that as they expand their businesses, we have the capacity. But that's more of an internal excitement. For the customer, watch this space, more new products as usual.
45 years celebrating over the next few months, so look out for new products, promotions, and lots more social media, and see our franchisees and showrooms to hop on board.
Fantastic. That's absolutely fabulous. And thank you so much for sharing your story today. I'm going to put a QR code up on the screen now that very conveniently takes you to the Autosmart franchise website. While people are doing that, have you got some final thoughts that you might like to share with people who are watching this either now or in the future? Just a little message about the brand that you'd like to leave people with.
I think we're who we say we are. So customers know what our brand stands for, which is products that go further and therefore save you money in your pocket, but also combined with a fantastic franchisee for a local business owner. So I'd say that our message is, it's kind of, for a new franchisee, come and have a look and check you like us, meet loads of other franchisees and see, and hopefully it's a match and we both pick each other. We don't always do that. So it might sound a bit dull, but we're who we say we are. We have a massive track record, and that's who we are.
Yeah. And I think if you're thinking of investing in a franchise and you like being practical, out and about, visit the website, scan the QR code. You never know, there might be an opportunity near you.
Fantastic. Well, look, thank you so much, both of you, for sharing your time with us today. Just a few things before we finish today. I'd like to very quickly bring up a QR code here. Our lovely media partners, Elite Franchise, who celebrate our wonderful industry, are going to be announcing the top 100 franchises tomorrow at noon. So please scan the QR code and find out some of the wonderful organizations within our industry. Next week on the Franchise Show, on our sister show, we are going to be discussing franchise recruitment consistency, and that is with the lovely Nick Plevin and Penny Hopkinson, returning guests. So please join us Tuesday 10th of December, 5:15 GMT for that. And please join us next week on Franchising Brand Stories, 12th of December, 5:15 GMT, 12:15 EST, and we're going to be finding out what's under the hat of Greensleeves with the lovely Cheryl Harper. So please join us for that. And until next time, my friends, take very good care. See you next time. Cheers.